The collapse in the snow. The wind howled like a wild beast outside. Snow flew in every direction, covering the land in a thick white sheet. In the middle of that frozen storm, a small shelter stood alone. Inside, a human man named Evan sat by a warm fire, eating a simple meal. He was a mechanic living far from the cities. He liked peace. Machines didn't lie. People did. And aliens? He didn't know much about them and didn't care to. Then it happened. Bang. A soft sound hit the outside of his shelter. It was too weak to be wind, too soft to be a falling branch. Evan stood up slowly, listening again. Bang, bang. It was like someone was knocking or falling against his door. He grabbed his jacket and opened the door just a little. A burst of icy air shot in, hitting his face like knives, and there, right outside, lay something on the ground. No, someone, a body. He opened the door wide and rushed outside. His boots crunched in the snow. His breath turned to mist in the freezing air. A girl. An alien woman, thin and shaking, was curled up at his doorstep. Her skin had a soft glow, faint blue, like moonlight. Her long hair was stuck to her face with frost. She was barefoot. Her thin clothes were soaked with snow. Hey! Evan knelt beside her. Hey, can you hear me? She didn't move. He quickly picked her up. She was light, too light, like she hadn't eaten in days. Her body was cold, like ice. He carried her inside and kicked the door shut behind him. Inside, he laid her gently near the fire. He threw blankets over her and pulled off her wet clothes, careful to leave her covered. Her breathing was shallow. He rushed to get a warm towel and wrapped her feet. Then he made hot soup and poured it into a cup. When he touched the cup to her lips, her mouth barely opened. She sipped, just a drop, and then a tiny cough. Weak, but alive. Evan sighed with relief. She wasn't dead. An hour passed. The alien woman's skin slowly changed. The pale blue started to warm. Her cheeks, once hollow, gained the smallest touch of color. Evan watched her closely. Her face was young, maybe early 20s by human standards. Her features were delicate, her ears slightly pointed, her hands long and thin. She looked scared even in sleep. Suddenly her eyes opened, wide and golden. She gasped and jerked away, pulling the blanket tightly around herself. Easy, easy. Evan raised both hands, showing he meant no harm. She looked around in panic. Her body shook. She didn't speak, just stared at him, breathing fast. You collapsed in the snow, he said calmly. You were freezing. I brought you in. Still, she didn't respond. Her eyes filled with tears. Then softly she whispered something in a language he didn't understand. Evan frowned. You speak Galactic Common? She stared. Then, after a long pause, she nodded. Just once. Good. You're safe now. You're inside. Warm. She looked at the fire, at the soup, then down at her own hands. Finally, in a quiet, broken voice, she asked, Why? Why what? Why? Help me. Evan blinked. The question hit him hard. Why had he helped her? He didn't know. Maybe because no one else would have. He shrugged. You needed help. That's all. Her lip trembled. She stared at him like no one had ever said that to her before. That night, Evan gave her a soft cot to sleep on near the fire. He offered more food, but she only ate a little. She clutched the blanket tightly as she lay down. In the dark, Evan sat at his workbench, pretending to fix a drone. But he couldn't stop watching her. She was still shaking. Not from cold, but from fear. He wondered what had happened to her, why she was out there alone, and what she had run from. He didn't ask. Not yet. Let her rest, he thought. But deep in his gut, he knew. Her story wasn't simple, and whatever it wasn't over. She woke up. Crying, Evan woke to soft sounds in the dark. Not wind, not machines. Crying. He looked across the room. The fire had dimmed into a soft glow. The alien woman, still wrapped in blankets, was sitting upright now, her head in her hands shaking. Tears slipped between her long fingers. She cried without a sound, like someone used to hiding her pain. Evan slowly sat up. "Are you all right?" She didn't answer. He got up, walked carefully over, and sat a few feet away from her. "Not too close. Do you want water?" he asked softly. She shook her head. "Food?" Another shake. "What's your name?" The question made her pause. She opened her mouth to speak, then stopped. She looked at him, eyes glowing gold, full of confusion and fear. Finally, she whispered, "Lyra. Lyra." Evan repeated gently, "I'm Evan." A long silence passed. "I thought I died," she said at last. "The snow was so cold I couldn't feel anything." "You almost did," Evan said. "You were half frozen when I found you." Lyra looked at the fire. Her voice broke as she whispered, "Why didn't you leave me there?" Evan frowned. "Because you're not trash." She flinched at that word, trash, like it had been said to her before. He watched as she touched her own arm. Her skin was soft, glowing faintly in the firelight. But there were faint marks, too. Old scars, thin lines. Someone had hurt her. Repeatedly. She wasn't just cold and starving. She'd been through something far worse. Lyra tried to speak, but her throat was tight. Still, the words came slowly. "I was on a ship, a prisoner ship, not made for people like me." Evan listened, silent and still. "They said we were cargo, property. I was taken with others. We were sold, or supposed to be." She paused to breathe. But something happened. The ship crashed. It hit the ice fields. Everyone died. Her eyes filled with tears again, except me. Evan's chest tightened. She had survived something terrible, and been completely alone after it. "I walked for days," Lyra whispered. "Hiding, freezing. I thought the snow would take me quietly." Evan handed her the warm cup of soup again. She hesitated, then took it with shaking hands. He watched her sip slowly, and for the first time, she didn't flinch when his hand got near. That morning, Lyra stayed wrapped in the blanket, sitting close to the fire. She didn't sleep. She just stared at the flames, lost in thought. Evan worked silently at his repair table, trying to act normal. He adjusted an old hover drone and set a kettle to boil. He wasn't good with people. He'd left the cities for a reason. But this wasn't about being social. This was about being human. Around noon, he noticed something strange. One of his motion sensors beeped, just once. Outside, nothing moved. No wind, no animals, just snow. He checked the system. Then very slowly turned back toward Lyra. "Did anyone follow your ship?" Lyra looked up fast. I don't know." "Any trackers on you?" She went pale. Her hands shook. I don't know," she said again, this time more afraid. Evan stepped forward gently. "Do you mind if I check? Just to be sure." She hesitated, then nodded. With calm hands, Evan scanned her with an old medical tool. As the screen lit up, he saw it. A small, blinking chip, embedded deep under her collarbone. "Damn," he muttered. Lyra looked terrified now. "What is it?" "A tracker, still active." No. She backed away, holding her arms close. "They'll find me," she whispered. "They'll take me back." "Not if I take it out first," Evan said. Her eyes widened. "Can you do that?" "Yes," he said firmly. "But it'll hurt." "I don't care," she whispered. Evan set up a clean table and sterilized his tools. Lyra lay still, teeth clenched, as he carefully made a small cut. She didn't scream, but tears rolled silently down her cheeks. Within a few minutes, Evan pulled the tracker out, a tiny black chip, still blinking. He showed it to her, then smashed it under his boot. "It's done," he said. "They won't find you now." Lyra stared at the broken pieces, then at Evan, and for the first time, she smiled. It was small, faint, but real. The truth about her past. Evan didn't sleep much that night. He sat near the fireplace, cleaning his tools, checking the sensors, pretending everything was normal. But something had changed. Lyra no longer curled up in the corner like a frightened animal. She now sat a little closer to the fire, a little closer to him, and when she looked at him, her eyes weren't full of fear anymore, they were full of questions. The next morning, snow fell gently outside. The storm had passed, but the cold was still biting. Evan poured 2 cups of hot tea, one for him, one for her, and set hers down near the blanket. She picked it up slowly, her fingers still trembling a little. They sat in silence. Then she spoke. "My planet was called Neriviax." Evan looked up. "I've never heard of it," he said. "Most haven't," she replied softly. "It was small, peaceful, full of light and music. We didn't even have soldiers. We never needed them." She held her tea close to her face, as if the warmth gave her courage. But then the traders came. They said they were visitors, friendly, wanted to trade for crystals. We welcomed them. She paused, her voice growing tight. "And then, they poisoned the air, stunned our leaders, took those of us who were young and healthy." Evan clenched, his fists. "Slavers," he muttered. She nodded. "They called us biogems. We glow when we're frightened. They thought it was pretty. They said we would sell well." Her golden eyes dimmed. "They caged us, packed us in crates. Some of us cried, others stopped breathing." Evan felt his chest tighten. "And you were one of them," he said quietly. "The last," she whispered. Lyra unwrapped part of her arm to show him a brand, faint, but still there. A scar shaped like a triangle inside a circle. "Their mark," she said bitterly. "Property of Sector 9 Trade Union." Evan had heard of them. Even the outer colonies hated them. They were known for dealing in the unthinkable. "How did you escape?" he asked. She looked at him. "The ship crashed. I don't know why. Maybe it was broken. Maybe something hit it in the storm. But when I woke up, the cage was open, and everyone else was gone." "You were alone?" "Yes. For 7 days. I ran, I crawled. I almost froze." She looked at him then, really looked. "And then you found me." Evan didn't speak. He didn't know what to say. He just looked at her hands, thin, bruised, no longer shaking. She had told him her story, her truth, and now she looked stronger somehow. Later that day, Lyra helped him clean some old tools. She watched closely, copying him with careful fingers. Evan glanced over. "You're good with your hands." "I used to fix music boxes," she said. "On my planet before." She stopped, but Evan smiled. "Well, these tools aren't pretty," he said, "but they keep the roof on." She chuckled softly. It was the first time he'd heard her laugh, even if it only lasted a second. As the day ended, a soft beeping sound came from Evan's comm screen. He walked over to check. It was a scanner pulse, faint, far away, but aimed in this direction. His stomach dropped. Someone out there was looking for something or someone. Evan turned around slowly. Lyra was watching him. She knew something was wrong. "Is it them?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," Evan replied. "Could be a routine sweep. Could be worse." She stood up, wrapping the blanket around her shoulders like armor. "If they find me..." "They won't," Evan said. "I crushed the tracker. But if they follow the wreckage, they'll have to go through me first." Lyra blinked. "You don't even know me," she whispered. "Why are you doing this?" Evan looked into her eyes. "Because someone should have helped you a long time ago." That night, Lyra didn't sleep far from him. She curled up beside the fire, a little closer than before. Evan stayed awake, keeping watch. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he knew one thing for sure. Lyra wasn't a burden. She was someone worth protecting, and whatever dark past she came from, she wasn't going back to it. Not if he could stop it. The tracker signal Evan always trusted his tools. Machines didn't. Such that when the sensor on the back wall started blinking red just once, he knew something was wrong. Very wrong. He stared at the old screen for a moment. A tracker ping. Weak, short but real. He stood up slowly. Outside, the snow was still falling. The forest was quiet. Too quiet. He didn't hear ships or engines. But someone, somewhere, was scanning. And that signal had come from inside the shelter. Lyra, he called gently. The alien woman stirred from her spot near the fire. She sat up, still wrapped in her blanket. Her golden eyes looked clearer now, stronger. But when she saw Evan's face, her expression changed. "What is it?" she asked. "I need to scan you again," he said, "but you already, just to be sure, please." She stood without argument and stepped into the light. Evan picked up the old medical scanner and waved it across her body. Her heart beat faster. The scanner beeped again, but not at her chest. This time, lower. He froze. There was another signal. Buried deep near her lower back, thin, almost invisible, something he had missed the first time. A second tracker. Lyra gasped when she saw Evan's face. No. No, you destroyed it. There's another one. Hidden deeper, smaller, smart tech. Her breathing quickened. "They lied to us," she said. "They said the collars were the only thing. We didn't know they put others inside us too." Evan took a breath. "We need to get it out. Now." The second removal wasn't easy. It was under skin, hidden near muscle. Lyra clenched her teeth, lying on the table as Evan carefully cut just deep enough. Her nails dug into the wooden frame. No. Screams. No crying. Just pain. And silence. Finally, Evan pulled out the small needle-shaped chip, still blinking. He dropped it in a steel dish and smashed it with a wrench. Then he threw it into the fire. It hissed and sparked, turning to ash. Lyra lay back, breathing hard. Her skin glowed faintly from pain and heat. Evan covered her with a clean blanket and brought water. "You're clear now," he said. "No more signals." She nodded weakly, but her face was pale. Not from fear this time, but from realization. They were tracking me even when I escaped, even when I thought I was free. I wasn't. "You are now," Evan said firmly. But Lyra didn't look convinced. Later that night, the sky outside flashed. Just once. Evan saw it from the window. A ripple of blue light in the clouds. Faint, almost hidden. He turned off all power. The shelter went dark. "Lyra," he whispered. She was already awake, sitting up straight. "Did they find me?" "I'm not sure." She grabbed her blanket and walked to him. "What if they come back?" she asked. Evan stared out into the snow. "Then they'll regret it." He went into his storage room. It was filled with old gear, things. From the war, from his days as a soldier, he hadn't touched them in years. Now, he opened one box, then another. Grenades, shock mines, camouflage netting, pulse rifles. Lyra stood in the doorway watching. "You were a fighter?" she asked softly. "I was. I just wanted to be left alone after." "Then why are you fighting again now?" Evan looked up at her. "Because you're not a thing. You're not property, and no one gets to treat you like that, not while I'm still breathing." Outside, he set up traps around the perimeter. Buried a few proximity mines under the snow. Linked motion sensors to an alarm light. Lyra helped, even though her hands shook. Together they made the shelter more than just a warm cabin. They made it a fortress. That night, The wind howled again. But it wasn't alone. Far in the distance, they heard it. Engines, a low hum in the clouds. Not close yet, but moving. Toward them. Lyra stared into the sky, fear returning to her face. Evan placed a warm hand on her shoulder. "They'll come here thinking you're weak," he said. "Let them try." She refuses to leave him. Morning came without sunlight, just gray skies and silence. The snowfall had stopped, but something was in the air. Tension, heavy, thick, like the world was holding its breath. Evan stood outside his shelter, eyes scanning the horizon. Trees stood still. Not even wind dared to move them now. He had seen this kind of quiet before, right before an attack. Inside, Lyra sat near the fire, dressed in warm clothes Evan had given her. An old jacket, too big, and soft boots. Her golden eyes were sharper now and her movement stronger. She was healing, but danger was coming. Evan came back inside and spoke calmly. "There's still time. We can get you out." Lyra looked up. "Out? Where?" "There's a cargo runner in the next valley. I have a beacon. I can call them. They can take you to a safe zone." She blinked, confused. "Without you?" "Yes." "No," she said quickly. "You'd be safe." "No," she said again, firmer this time. Evan stepped closer. "Lyra, these people aren't just slavers. They're hunters. They won't stop. They might kill anyone who gets in their way." "I know." "Then why stay here?" Lyra stood, hugging the jacket tight. "Because I'm not running anymore, and because—" She hesitated. Her voice grew soft. "You didn't run when I needed help." Evan sighed. "Lyra, you gave me food. A bed. Warmth. You took pain out of my body. You risked your life. For nothing in return." She stepped closer now, voice trembling but clear. "You gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever." "What's that?" She smiled gently. "Choice." Evan looked away. He'd always believed in doing what was right, but no one had ever looked at him like she did now. With trust, not fear. With hope, not expectation. He reached for the comm device slowly. "I'll still send the signal," he said, "just in case we need to run together." Lyra nodded, stepping beside him. Together, they activated the emergency beacon. Later that day, Evan showed Lyra how to handle an old blaster. She had never used one before, but she learned fast. Her fingers were steady. "Who taught you to survive?" Evan asked as she hit another target. She looked at the broken cans lined on the snow. "No one. I just didn't want to die." Evan nodded. "You're stronger than you know." That night, as they finished securing the shelter again, Evan noticed something strange in the snow near the hill. Boot prints. Fresh, heavy, too large for Lyra, too far from his own. He followed them for a few meters, then stopped. There were 3 sets, not one, all leading straight toward the cabin. Evan returned to the shelter in silence. "Lyra," he said, locking the door behind him. "They've landed." Her eyes widened. "Are we ready?" she asked. He looked at her, calm, alert, no panic. He nodded, more than they expect. Midnight came. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the wind picked up again, and then, boom! One of the perimeter traps exploded, sending up a burst of light and smoke. The red alarm inside the shelter flashed. "They're here," Evan said. He handed Lyra a small communicator. "If something happens to me—" She shook her head. "Don't say that. You run. Don't be a hero. Survive." "No. Lyra, I told you, I'm not leaving you." Her eyes burned like gold fire now. "I belong with you." Evan stared at her. Not as a guest, not as a victim, but as an equal. A fighter. She had made her choice, and it was him. Outside, shadows moved through the snow. Heavy boots, cold weapons. But inside, that shelter, stood 2 souls ready to fight for one another. And the slavers were about to learn. They didn't just find a girl. They found a human with something to protect. And that was their biggest mistake. The hunters arrive. The first shot hit the door at dawn, a loud crack of plasma, hot, fast, and deadly. Sparks flew from the metal hinges. Smoke rose. Evan didn't flinch. "They're testing our walls," he muttered, checking the generator charge. Lyra stood behind him, gripping her blaster tight. Her breathing was calm, but her eyes were burning. "They're not going to take me again," she whispered. "No," Evan said. "They're not." Outside, 3 figures moved through the snow. Their suits were black with glowing red visors. Professional, cold, silent. These weren't just slavers. They were retrievers, elite hunters trained to collect escaped property. They didn't ask questions. They didn't show mercy. They just took. Inside the cabin, Evan flipped a switch. Hidden turrets clicked into place on the roof. Old, rusty, but functional. "Give me a reason," he muttered. The second blast came hard. Direct. Hit on the wall. Wood cracked. Ice fell from the ceiling. Lyra flinched but didn't run. She crouched beside the window, peeking through a narrow slit. "They're spreading out," she said. "One's heading to the left." "I see him," Evan said. He tapped the old screen showing motion detection. Dots moved slowly across it. 3, maybe 4. He armed the shock mines. One step too close, and they'd feel it. Then came the voice. A cold, robotic message played from outside. "Return the escaped cargo. Step out, hands visible. No harm will come." Lyra laughed under her breath. "They always lie," she said. Evan looked at her. "You've heard that line before?" "Every time." He stared out the window. "Well, this time they'll get a different answer." The first hunter crept close to the cabin's left side. He raised his scanner. Boom! The mine went off, blasting him back into a snowdrift. Evan and Lyra both ducked as the others opened fire. Blast scorched the front wall. Sparks flew across the room. The smell of smoke filled the air. "We hold the door," Evan yelled. Lyra nodded. She took position near the rear vent, ready to shoot. They fought like a team. Evan's hands were steady, trained from war. Lyra's movements were fast, graceful, even deadly. She wasn't the broken girl in the snow anymore. She was something else. Now suddenly, silence. The shooting stopped. Evan's breath slowed. "They're regrouping," he said. Then the roof creaked. Lyra looked up. "They're above us." Evan grabbed a plasma cutter and slashed the ceiling open near the side hatch. He tossed a stun grenade up without looking. Flash, thud. A body crashed down through the snow-covered roof, one of the hunters, unmoving. Lyra stared at the mask, cracked, lifeless. She turned to Evan, stunned. "You didn't even hesitate," he shrugged. "I don't miss." Then, something changed. From behind the trees, a new shape appeared. Larger. A second ship had landed, and from it stepped a woman in black armor, taller than the others. Her face, covered by a shining metal visor. "She's the handler," Lyra whispered. "The leader?" "No," Lyra said quietly. "The one who trained me to obey." Evan looked at her, surprised. "You knew her?" Lyra's hand tightened on her weapon. "She used to hit us with sound waves, pain through the ears. Made us kneel without touching us." "She coming for you?" "No," Lyra said. "She's coming for revenge." Evan turned to Lyra, serious. "I need to draw them away." "No," she said instantly. "Don't even say it. I've got an escape path through the woods. You take it. I'll stall them." She walked up to him, closer than ever. "No, we fight together." "Lyra," she raised her chin. "I'm not running from monsters anymore, and I'm not losing you." Then the door exploded. The final breach. Smoke and fire filled the cabin. 3 hunters stormed in with glowing rifles, but they weren't fast. Enough. Evan shot the first in the chest. Lyra dropped the second with 2 clean blasts. The third reached for her, but she slammed him with the butt of her weapon. He collapsed in the firelight. Her chest was rising fast. She looked at Evan. "I'm not afraid anymore," she said, and Evan knew she meant it. Outside, the armored woman watched through her visor. One last signal on her scanner blinked red. All units down. She paused, then turned toward the ship. She wasn't going to die for a lost slave. She would return later, with more. But for now, she left. Inside the ruined cabin, Lyra and Evan stood among the silence. Smoke curled from the roof. The battle was over. For now. She looked at him. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For bringing this to your door." He shook his head. "I opened that door, and I don't regret it." She stepped closer. "You saved me." "No," Evan said softly. "You saved yourself. I just stood beside you." She chose to stay. The snow had stopped falling. Ash floated through the air instead, soft and gray, from the cracked roof and the broken fires inside the old shelter. Morning light touched the trees, turning ice into glass. Evan stood silently. Outside, staring at the footprints leading away, the handler had left. She didn't fight, didn't speak. She just turned and vanished. But he knew this wouldn't be the last time. Not for him, and not for Lyra. Inside, Lyra sat near the fire, arms wrapped around her knees. The warmth didn't seem to reach her today. Her body was healing, but her heart still quiet, still full of questions. Evan entered, his coat covered in soot. He dropped into the chair across from her. "Still think I should have made you leave?" he asked, trying to smile. She didn't answer right away. Then finally, "I would have come back anyway." "Why?" "Because no one ever fought for me like you did." He looked into her golden eyes. "And I've never met anyone who fought like you did." They sat in silence for a while. Not awkward silence, just peaceful, like neither of them wanted to break it. Finally, Lyra whispered, "I thought freedom meant running." Evan nodded. "That's what most people think. But maybe freedom is choosing where you belong." He turned to her. "And where's that now?" She looked at him, with soft eyes, with calm strength, and gave the smallest smile. "Here. If you'll let me stay." Evan blinked. "Of course." Over the next few days, they worked together, fixing the shelter, burying the broken tech, wiring new defenses. Lyra helped sort tools, repaired a broken drone by herself, cooked stew though it was too spicy. Evan didn't complain. He just smiled and ate every bite. One night, as stars filled the sky, Evan sat outside on a small bench staring up. Lyra joined him, a blanket around her shoulders. "You ever think about going back to Earth?" she asked. He shrugged. "Not really. There's no one waiting." "Maybe now there is." He looked at her. She didn't blush, didn't hide. She just held his gaze. "I'm not property," she said. "I know. I'm not weak anymore. I saw that. I don't need someone to save me. I never wanted to be your hero." She leaned closer. "Then what are you?" He answered simply, "Someone who wants to stay by your side, no matter what's next." For the first time since they met, Lyra reached out and held his hand. It was small in his, delicate but strong, like her. Weeks passed. The sky cleared. Spring on the frozen planet didn't bring flowers, but it brought sunlight, warmth, hope. Other travelers came and went, passing Evan's shelter for repairs or rest, but Lyra stayed. She learned more about machines. He learned more about her people, what little remained of them. They built a life. Together. One night, as they sat watching a soft storm on the horizon, Lyra whispered, "They'll come again." Evan nodded. "Probably. Stronger. In numbers." "I know." She looked at him. "Are you scared?" "No," he said. "Because I won't be alone." She smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "You were the first home I ever had, and you were the first reason I stayed." They didn't need promises. They didn't need perfect words. They had fire and scars and a bond stronger than chains. She was no longer the starving alien who collapsed in the snow, and he was no longer the man who chose to live alone. They had each other, and this time, neither would let go.